Hello.
Yeah.
You do tell me what?
It's quiet.
Yeah, sometimes we. First time. Okay, we're ready to begin. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was sent to the KP Star and Brave and the Atlantic Press, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as the required notice under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Would everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Jim Barnes, George Dick,
Here.
John Fusco,
Here.
Allison Morgan, Paul Mulligan,
Here.
Kevin O'Neill, Tom Richard,
Here.
Lisa Rosselli,
Here.
Carol Sabo,
Here.
Ryan Griffin,
Here.
Carol Rice Lynn.
Our first item is the minutes of the, we have the June 3rd.
I sent them electronically.
Okay. June 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes.
Did you want a copy?
Can you approve the June 3rd meeting minutes, please?
I'll second.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Fusco,
Yes.
Morgan,
Yeah.
Mulligan,
Yes.
O'Neill, Richards,
Yes.
Sabo,
Yes.
Rosselli.
Yes. And the next item are the minutes of the June 17th, 2025 work session. And if you already had a copy of that. I'll make a motion to approve.
I would say that.
There is a minor grammatical error. My fault.
Here, as amended, I recommend. As amended.
Second.
Right, it's spelling of chair.
Barnes,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Fusco,
Abstain.
Morgan, Mulligan,
Yes.
O'Neill, Richards,
Abstain.
Sabo,
Yes.
Rosselli.
Yes. And tonight we have an application from Judith and William Milby, 105 Second Avenue.
And, sorry, if I may request, if any other business, I'm still waiting for our architect. He got caught up in the weather, driving down. Is there any other business that the board is working before they get to us? If not, we'll get started. We'll hope that he shows up in time to do his piece.
Yeah, we can take a few minutes and
Okay. Yeah, he did email to let me know, that the rain had and upload its property.
It always seems like it's clear here, because we never get any rain.
You can't make bubbles, right?
I saw up the road, it was torrential, so.
Yeah. Thanks.
For like, it's not. Okay, we'll do the public portion now, second.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, if there's anyone from the public that would like to come up, we're gonna switch this up a little bit and, switch that portion of the meeting till now. So if there's anyone that would like to come forward, please. Yeah, not related to this application, just general comments, since we haven't had this application yet. Just if you want to come up, state your name, your address, and state and spell your name and your address, please.
Green.
Press. Jim Lubriciano, 127 Myrtle Avenue. Good evening, everyone. Just want a couple questions. A few questions. I mean, under what authority or state statute gives the planning board the power to create an ordinance regarding short-term rentals? And I should correct myself on that. You guys can't make an ordinance. I recommended this. All right, planning board can't do the ordinance.
The question, can we do it, can the?
Under what authority or state statute gives the planning board the power to create an ordinance for short-term rentals? Which part of we do this? Oh, you're looking at that.
Well, let's just do one at a time, so, but if I don't know what the questions are, I can always, it's just top my head, so. We gotta make something. Municipalities going to regulate rentals that are less than 175 days. There's a specific statute that allows, municipalities to regulate rentals that are less than 175 days or less. And that's the statute under which, all the municipalities who regulate rentals, do so. There's also the general, power of zoning boards, to define uses. Just like they define bed and breakfast, they can define other uses in permitted particular zones. So the answer to that question is the municipal land use law.
Is that under what they call police power?
The first one I said is the police power, the second one I said is the power to zone.
That first one is police.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, the second question, is there an elevator in the newly reimagined three-story building that used to be the Black Duck?
Your question?
Is there an elevator? I mean,
For us to answer, so we don't do inspections or enforcement, we do zoning applications.
but
You need
my
to take that into
understanding,
construction. So I'm not going to that, that's the answer.
so no one knows that isn't there some?
It's not that no one knows, it's not our job to do inspections. Construction and zoning officer do inspections, that's who does that, and then enforcement is up to the municipality, not the zoning board, so that's not what we do. We hear applications, we make decisions on the applications, whether they build in accordance with it is not what we do.
Okay, but is there a law in the state about three-story buildings?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, thank you for that.
Three-story condo buildings too.
Three-story condo.
Not give legal answers, that's not our job. Don't go out in front of them, fire code, that's not what you're here to do. I just don't want to get in trouble, if you give the wrong answer, then we're giving legal advice, that's not what we do.
All right, thanks. Okay, from the draft, the master plan draft, housing recommendations, short-term rentals are permitted via OTAs such as Airbnb and such through our community. Although our community and stakeholders outreach process identify this as an issue within the borough. So what is the outreach process and how did the outreach process reach the citizens of West K Bay or ascertain OTAs or an issue within the community? Because I don't see that mentioned in the survey. Nice road.
What's the question, Jen?
It says that rentals are permitted via OTAs, such as Airbnb, VRBO. Although our community and stakeholders outreach process identified this as an issue within the borough.
Although I'm hearing this out of, I don't see the context because I don't have the draft, I didn't bring that with me, right? But, the outreach process was the survey and all of the meetings that we've had regarding the master plan.
I didn't see. Okay,
So if that was brought up as a concern, that's why it was included.
okay, was there any police complaints related to any?
I don't know the
Right.
answer to that, Jim. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay,
Also say the last couple of years, been hearing applications coming before the board, so that's something that's been pretty consistent. When people coming in and make complaints against, the traffic, the cars, the amounts of people, we've had people notify the board concerned about water usage. So it's something that's been kind of prevalent with the board over the last couple of years, I'm just speaking from us. Excuse me. And not necessarily a survey, but it's been something that's been brought up.
did they also bring up like traffic related to the Strawberry Festival, Lima Pink Festival, the Farmers Market here on Broadway?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complaints about a lot of it, but this is something that, when the board sits down and we kind of come up with ideas of things that we need to address in the master plan, that was one of them. That people have some complaints, and concerns, and keep in mind, everybody on this board also live in this town. So we're aware of what comes out.
Okay. Okay, so on page 31, talk about the borough should agree about the zoning of residential properties located in the block between Westbury and Myrtle Avenue, east of Park Boulevard. The residential dwellings are in C3 district along with the two commercial uses on the end of the block. The only residential use permitted in the C3 district is mixed use. As a result, residential property owners typically must obtain variances for any improvements. Options to be evaluated would be changing the zoning for these properties to R1, C1, or a new zone specifically designed for this area. I think you talked about this. So my question is, and why not west of Law? How far is that zone that extends down, I believe, to what, Columbia Avenue? Yeah. Or, what you call it, commercial?
No. Doesn't,
How far does it go now?
the C1?
Yes,
The C1 is along the road.
it,
It doesn't go, that's,
all the way down on, Sunset, Elkhorst, then. Past Chattel Village.
We have a map somewhere,
yeah.
I'm just saying, why aren't you considering the same considerations at west of Walnut?
I'm sure they'll consider it if something say about it. I'm sure they'll say they're not considering anything. If you want us to consider it, tell us why you think it'd be appropriate, then.
Well, I just think it would be better for residential, not commercial.
Can you just say what you're saying again, so everyone understands?
I think it would be better for residential instead of commercial.
What would?
Along the Sunset Boulevard past Chattel Village.
You think that area would be better for commercial than? Because
Residential, then,
you'd rather be residential than commercial.
Well, we have commercial uses past there.
Mostly commercial use.
Yeah,
right. But who's commercial?
We just passed, does that tell,
They said past Chattel Village.
Shadow Village is before Pacific, right?
Yeah, but it's after,
So what's after Pacific?
land. requirement.
Yes, but what properties are past specific?
There's residential, it's 401.
Yeah, Waker's the first.
There is a,
Residential.
There's the Deb's place.
I mean, the point of it is,
But we're not interested, it already is commercial.
right,
Nobody's looking to expand it further.
right,
And the area you're talking about with tiny houses, we're trying to figure out how to rezone that area so those poor people don't have to come in for a variance every time they want to make a slight change to their house because they need a use variance. Because right now they're in a commercial zone with commercial businesses on either end. And we're just discussing how we fix that.
right.
No one's talking about expanding in westward.
I believe you expanded it like 10 or 2008. Okay, so we'll let that one go. Okay, so Park Boulevard. I mean, if you're looking for housing, and I'm not sure about Park Boulevard, it's next to the marsh. Can that be like declared a blighted area? And new stores that are more appropriate to the character of West Cape Bay be constructed with additional living quarters on top?
Would you suggest that to the owner, Jim?
I'll be happy to suggest it.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
That's not something that's worthwhile pursuing? You're looking for additional,
It's not a problem.
So.
But you can
your
declare-
house, if we'll come to your
Declare-
house for sale. I'm gonna tear that down, but use the property.
you can buy.
Right, well, we could buy,
You can buy it,
big tract, but
and we can buy
it's the
it,
same situation.
but you can have an opportunity to declare, I'm not sure about the whole mechanism works, with a lighted area, and you get special funding.
Like,
You can declare.
But it isn't
Just
like
like
I mean, half the units aren't even in use. That's part of the condition. All right, so that's something to think about. Okay, so I love on objective 23, promote public transit and revitalization of the rail service. I don't see that happen. You guys see that happen? The rail service going? No. So you talked about the shuttle service. Did anyone pursue a proposal about getting the shuttle service, the one they have in Cape May over here?
It's $500 a day per shuttle, yes.
And compare that to the cost of building a new bridge?
See, apples and oranges.
No. I mean, building a bridge is going to cost, I don't know, $1 million, $2 million? And plus.
Largely covered by grants.
Well, that's what you're saying, but we don't know. We haven't heard that.
Well, pay attention.
We haven't heard any numbers? We have any numbers you want to share with us?
Alright.
We don't.
That's not what we have to, we're places where they call it term projections of things we'd like to see happen.
But this is what you had in your graph? And then you said like, a good alternative is to call up the golf park place, Cape May Free Ride and get a ride? That's what you put in this report. Yeah, well,
What's wrong with this?
What's wrong with
what's wrong with it? They only have maybe one or two, you haven't tried doing it, you have to wait.
the wait for buses.
Buses, we have buses,
They pass through, means, yeah.
I mean, the shuttle bus service, they have it.
It's not a workshop night, it's not even master plan review, isn't even on our agenda, so the board is actually against my recommendation. We're light enough to have general public discussion at these meetings when they're not workshop meetings, so it's just try to stay on things that are actually in our zone and work your way through it, because we have an applicant that I think is ready now, and you. Okay, one question more.
Well, it's just a comment on about, better sidewalks, to promote walking, better lighting to make sidewalks safe. I mean, you've got people down on Farmdale, can't even walk down a sidewalk. There's no sidewalk there. There's probably other areas like that too, so. You're talking about transportation congestion and stuff like that. You gotta have it, make it friendly. Thank you.
The section you wanted was NJSA 40:52-1, section, Section N, the rental of real property for a term less than 175 consecutive days for residential purposes by a person having a permanent place of residence elsewhere. And that is under the list of things that the municipality has the power to license and regulate. Under 40:52-1.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you give me 5 minutes, I can get to the answer. It's got, it's 5 minutes to get to the answer, I can leave them together for that.
We're going to go back to our applicant and then we'll open for the public after that. If that's okay, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. And this is your architect? Let me see.
This is my client, this is, Bill.
What's your other person?
Oh, sorry.
There it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. He is here. Thank you. And we appreciate you rearranging your schedule. Thank you. So first of all, I'm Daniel S. Reeves, Reeves Law Firm LLC. We're here tonight presenting an application for 105 Second Avenue, that's block 35, lot 0. We'll be going through this evening, and
We bring mine closer to you.
yes, I can. Is that any better? Great.
Oh, closer to,
Yeah, of course.
thank you.
Tell me if I'm
That way
shouting.
the audience gets to hear you.
Tell me if I'm shouting. Thank you. So the purpose of the application tonight is a relatively minor application. I'll leave it to the architect to get into the nitty gritty details, but
Step down.
Maybe, I'd rather you. It's not 1,000% clear they needed the variance. If the two of you step down, how many people do we have? We'll have you step down. Yeah, it's, they might need the variance, so I just. No, I think that was like 7 and. Or, yes. That's where I'm happy with the talking. You like to talk? Sir, I'm gonna swear in our board engineer, the applicant, and is your expert there?
this is under continuing.
All right, so I'm gonna swear in as well. Ma'am, if you're gonna speak, why don't you raise your right hand just in case your husband has a question for you? Each of you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
And if I do. Thank you. Thank you. So the scope of the application is fairly limited. The property basically consists of two portions. The front street facing portion is a historic home. It was built in approximately the 1850s. The rear portion of the home was built in approximately 2017. And it currently includes the entrance on the right-hand side if you're facing the property from the street. What my clients would like to do is remove the entrance on the right-hand side of the property. And essentially, the historic portion of the property already approaches the side yard setback area. It approaches to within 2.7 feet of the property line. So what my clients propose to do is to bump out 8-foot section of the rear portion of the property to match that, the front portion of the property. So essentially, we're not going any closer to the property line overall, although for an 8-foot stretch, we are going from 6 feet to 2.7 feet, which would then be flush with the front portion of the property. So we do require several variances, specifically for right side yard setback and total side yard setback, and also maximum lot coverage slightly sloped. So there is an issue where this property received a zoning permit in 2016. It received a bonus of 200 square foot of floor area based on an interpretation of the ordinance that is no longer applicable for front porches. Essentially, if it's a very small front porch and the property received a bonus, 200 square feet. based on having a front porch. I understand the borough now takes a different view of how to interpret that ordinance. And so that interpretation no longer applies today. We don't get the 200 square foot bonus. However, we do have a number of lead points, specifically 17, with 15 lead points who qualified for a bonus of 150 square feet. And so this is an interesting technical issue where there's not a major renovation happening at this point, or proposed, I should say. There was a major renovation years ago. Under the strict lead requirements, they only apply to new construction or major renovation, which your board engineer will talk more about. But essentially, the theory that I'd like to present to you is that if the previous owner who had done the development work 9 years ago had been unable to take advantage of the 200 square foot bonus from having a front porch, he would likely have applied for lease points instead, and then we would not need a D variance this evening. So I have spoken with the board engineer, the board attorney, as well as your zoning officer. They all understand the theory that I'm presenting. No one has actively opposed it. And essentially, I'll leave it to you to rely on what Mr. Roach has to say, but he shared with me that he would, of course, follow exactly what the ordinance says, and that if we can document 15 lead points, then he would give us 150 square foot of bonus floor. So that would obviate the need to request a D variance for floor area ratio. So with that said, it would also obviate the need to request a C variance for maximum gross floor area. So, Mr. Payne, I don't know if you'd like to have Mr. Roach have me ask him any questions about that, or how you'd like to approach that.
Generally speaks during the public portion,
Okay, understood.
so why don't you put on your proofs and then.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Just send it.
Thank you very much. So,
You still need the lot coverage variance, right?
we do still need a lot of coverage variance, correct? This is Bill Milby. Bill, can you explain when you purchased the property
We purchased it in January 2017.
and who sold it to you?
Rick Burke,
And who's Mr. Burke?
Mr. Burke is a local builder and is a part of 1722 Star.
Thank you. And how have you used the property since you purchased it?
It's a family use property. We do not rent the property. And we have a growing family and utilize it all year round.
Thank you. As to the lead points, I am going to ask Mr. Kerner some more detailed questions about that. But can you describe the energy efficient appliances that you have in the property?
Yes, nothing has been replaced since 2017. They've all been there since then, but we do have a high efficiency HVAC, energy efficient water heater, and Energy Star refrigerator and dishwasher.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask Tim to come up with the rest. Could you please describe your credentials for the board this evening?
Yes, I'm an architect and I've been practicing for about 35 years.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, I would request that the board recognize Mr. Kerner as an expert in architecture.
Absolutely, thank you.
Is he lead certified?
I am.
I would normally not ask that, but this is the one occasion where I get that.
Okay. Tim, I'd like to go over the proposed plans with you here. Can you please describe generally what it is the applicants are looking to do?
There is an area that is setback that's behind the historic part of the house, which is currently a recessed porch, a side porch. And the applicants are hoping to enclose that area and create basically an extension of the kitchen. So there would be some storage there, there would be a counter and basically additional space for the kitchen.
Thank you. What is the approximate square footage of the addition?
The area that would be enclosed is 6'6" by 8 feet, so 52 square feet.
Thank you. So, obviously, we're requesting variances for right side yard, both side yard and maximum lot coverage. And basically, also have some existing non-conforming conditions. Can you describe the existing non-conforming conditions, please?
Well, the one which is most applicable to the project is the side yard setback, which is where the historic house is. The distance that is set back from the property line is less than what the zoning code currently requires.
Thank you. So, in your professional opinion, would the purposes of zoning be advanced by deviation from the zoning ordinances? And would the benefits outweigh any detriment to the public good in connection with the proposed construction?
In my opinion, the benefits would outweigh any detriment to the public good. I feel that proposed addition would not have any detriment.
And would you feel that any purposes of zoning would be advanced by the proposed construction?
Yes, purposes of zoning would be advanced.
And can you describe which purposes would be advanced, please?
Thank you for the notes. Not going to be paying this question. Okay.
Well, let me ask, is it your opinion that the project would provide for adequate light, air, and open space?
Yes, it would.
And in what ways would it do that?
In what ways would provide adequate light, air, and open space? In that it is not getting any closer to the adjacent property than the current historic house, and so it does not impact on that open space inside.
Thank you. Is it your opinion that the project would promote a desirable visual environment?
In that the addition is consistent with the existing house, and it's consistent with the historic house, and it is visually effective.
Thank you. And is it your opinion that the project would promote the conservation of a historic site?
Yes, because the addition does not disturb the historic house, and it would be consistent with the historic house, so it would be consistent with those goals.
Thank you. Now, on the issue of the lead bonus points. Could you please review the lead points that we qualified for, in your opinion, specifically with regard to the issues that were not already addressed by Mr. Milne?
Would you like me to read each of these points to the board?
If you would, and actually I do also have an updated list. Our original plans that we submitted to the board have an outdated list after responding to your board engineer's comments. We do have an updated list that would be reflected on the final plans if approved.
So there are two general categories that we are looking for, and there are more categories on this, but basically I'm not sure whether this is before the board often, so excuse me if I'm explaining something that you're all familiar with. The categories we are looking at is location and sustainable sites, and these issues apply to both new projects as well as renovation projects. As far as location goes, there are lead points to avoid environmentally sensitive sites, to build near or within existing communities, to build on previously developed lots, to build where served by existing infrastructure, to build where walking, biking, and public transit is encouraged, and to build within 1/2 mile of public open spaces. So these have to do with the community, they have to do with not expanding into currently green areas, and they have to do with public transit as well as biking, pedestrian aspects. So those are all aspects that the community that we all know and love already corresponds to. But those are all need points which are afforded by this project. And as in terms of the other category, that's sustainability, non-toxic pest control is a point, high efficiency mechanical systems, energy efficient water heating equipment, Energy Star refrigerator, Energy Star dishwasher, and finally, not having a garage or detached, or having a garage which is separated from the house or no garage also is a point. That has to do with internal quality of internal potential, decreasing internal toxins.
Thank you, Tim. All right, what was the point total for all the lead points?
A total of 17 points.
Thank you. So now as to the negative criteria of the variances we're requesting, can the variances that we're requesting be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance?
Yes, they could.
And so is the proposed development consistent with the neighborhood?
Yes, it is.
I think you've already testified that it will advance the purposes of zoning. What is the vegetative cover that will exist if the application is approved?
Well, the percentage,
Yes.
you're testing my eyesight and my memory at the same time. I believe required is 40% and sorry, you're gonna vary that means I can't make it up.
54.9.
Yeah, so
Did you determine that there was 54.9% vegetative coverage remaining after the project?
that is correct, yes.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation as to the positive criteria and the negative criteria. If this application were to include the D variance, we would need to show special circumstances. Although that would overlap significantly by showing that we can advance the purposes of zoning. And similarly, the negative criteria would be the same in terms of the overlap. So at this,
Mr. Reese, I'm just gonna disagree with you a little bit there. You're holding yourself to a higher standard than I think you might need to. Unless our engineer corrects me, I think that this is a flow area ratio variance, is it not?
it is.
So you need to show they come into a square standard, which is a lesser standard than special reasons. What you need to show is that the site can accommodate the deviation from the flow area ratio. So for example, on this particular site, because you're infilling a portion of the house and not adding bedrooms, and actually very little living space, actually adding storage, those would tend to show that the site can accommodate the deviation because you're filling space that is essentially a gap and it's not visible from the road. And in my experience, because we get a number of these in the other place that I work that I won't mention, and a lot of times you have older houses that have really weird gaps in them. And that's when the other place never grants flow area ratios. It's like, just don't even ask. Unless you have a super small lot or you're filling a gap in an old house, because those kind of things, unless you're adding bedrooms and increased density and parking, the site can seem to accommodate those deviations because you're not adding very much to the bulk of the house and you're not adding to the height of the house. So those kind of backfilling things sometimes are easier to show that you can accommodate. So for these purposes, I'm just telling the board that if you're going to grant it or deny it, that's up to you. I want you to apply the right standard. And I think the standard is whether the site can accommodate the deviation from the flow area ratio. That's the it's the same sort of standard as a deviation from a, expansion of a non-conforming structure or expansion of non-conforming use. Those are like little D variances, they're not D variances where it's a non-permitted use where you need special reasons, sort of like a lesser D variance. So this is a bit of a lesser D variance, okay? So what you're thinking about is, what is floor area ratio supposed to prevent? Well, it's supposed to prevent massive scale, like massive bulk scale, big square corners, adding bedrooms and living space that make the site be more, need more parking or have more bedrooms, right? There are things that kind of make the site more intense. So you need to weigh that against the type of request being made here, which is like an, I don't know, my testimony was storage area in the kitchen and more counter space is the testimony. So that's what you're kind of doing on this in terms of it needs a D variance, okay? You understand that?
Thank
So-
you, Mr. King. And actually, I can offer, our expert can offer a little bit.
It's gonna do better than that for you, Glenn.
That's the ventral point. Tim, do you, is it your opinion that the property does provide adequate parking if this application is granted?
Yes, it does.
And is it your opinion that the property will continue to have adequate ingress?
Yes, it does.
And do you anticipate that this addition, if approved, will have any significant impact on household traffic, water sewer usage, or any other similar factors?
It would not.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. King. So we would now like to rest our initial application. We'll go sit down. If you'd like the public portion list. If you'd like.
We'd like to hear from
Oh,
our engineer.
thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Mr. Reeves, are you in receipt of my May 5th, 2025 review letter?
I am, thank you.
Going to jump to page 2 briefly to just go over for the board what you're asking for today and what you might possibly be asking for today. So, the variances that are going to be required no matter what are the side yard setback. We're looking at the house, it's set right. I would say it's the east, it's 2.7 feet. To the east, that's also an existing nonconformity, but again, they're extending it, so that's going to prompt a variance, but we're not making it worse. Similar to the total side yard setback, that was the existing nonconformity at 14.1 feet as well. But that will be a 14.1 foot variance because they were going to get an addition along that same plane. And then the maximum lot coverage for principal building and accessories, 40% is allowed in this zone. They're proposing 45.1%. So the fly in the ointment here is the gross floor area and floor area ratio. They're asking the grandfather in some of the lead points. And I would like to just let the board know whether after I go to page 4 and read some specific language, whether you agree with me or not. The maximum gross floor area ratio in this zone is 2,250 square feet. Based on my calculations of gross floor area being total habitable floor area contained within the outermost walls of the house structure, so porches and decks at the exterior are not included in my calculations of my report. So the first floor and the second floor total is 2,255 square feet. So they're asking for a 5 square foot at the minimus, essentially D variance, if they don't get this lead credit. So it's 5 square feet over what they're asking for, just FYI. Similarly, the maximum floor area ratio, if you take that 2,255 square feet, divided by the lot, 5,000 square feet, that gives you 45.1%. The allowed maximum floor area ratio in the zone is 45%, so they're asking for a 0.1% variance, possibly if the board does not agree that they should be granted these credits. Jumping to page 4 of my report. I already talked about the gross floor area. Number 2, show me the total habitable floor area containing from the outermost surfaces of the house structure, including hallways, closets, stairs, columns, and wall thickness. So I went over my calculations, how I got to that 2,255 square feet. If the applicant decides that they're not agreeing with that, so,
Actually, that's more favorable than our own calculations, so we have it up there.
Number three, pretty clear to me, that this is a smaller renovation, and the lead rating system is specifically applicable, and they are very clear cut, with their guidance. And I'll just read this aloud from the U.S. Green Building Council, which, is the lead rating system. The lead rating system is applicable to new construction and major renovations. They go further and say applicable to whole buildings and whole additions to buildings or various use types that are either new construction or undergoing major renovations and where at least 60% of the gross floor area is complete. Major renovations are buildings with extensive interior alteration work in addition to work on the exterior shell of the building and or primary structural components and or the core and peripheral MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and service systems and or site work. It was my interpretation of this guidance that due to the size and scope of this project and these specific improvements, that the reduction request was not included in my analysis. So if you go back to my numbers, I'll stand by them needing a 5 square foot variance for the D variance. You can discuss among yourselves if you don't agree with that. They talked about parking. How many buildings or bedrooms are in the zone or the building?
I'll have to, how many bedrooms are in the area in the home area? 4 bedrooms.
I think 2.5 parking spaces are needed. I think, well, I'll let you provide testimony how many are able to be provided.
How many parking spaces do you currently have on the property?
We have a 2-car driveway.
And can you, so you can park up to 2 cars in front?
Up to 2 cars.
Based on their testimony, they have sufficient parking and they're not building any more bedrooms or anything, so they wouldn't be exacerbating any parking variances or anything like that. Number 5, on page 4, I asked that you provide some information on the existing shed or other accessory structures, just for the record.
Provided in an updated plan.
What's it? Is that, are you asking for the square footage? Or what is the question?
The rear and side yard setbacks, just
As to the
I-
shed.
for the shed.
The shed, yeah, the shed is set back 3'2" from the rear. And on the side, it is conforming with the 5. That's the side yard, which is 6 feet.
So the rear yard is an existing non-conforming where the shed is
Correct.
for the record and any future.
We're doing the report, I'm sorry.
I was on number 5, page 4. So the existing,
Gotcha. In the addition of report, I promise, yeah.
what's the height of that area? We have a approximate.
I don't recall the height. It's pretty low.
Pretty low.
I don't think it's gotta be private.
Can you speak in the microphone? We have to have a record, sir. So talk in the microphone, we have to have a record.
Oh, okay. I'd say the approximate height of the shed would be 8-foot ceiling, and then a peak roof, a few more feet up there. 10, 11 feet.
About 11 feet, and the allowable height's 15 feet, so.
You know that it's less than 15.
Yes, it's less.
Thank you. That concludes my report. Anybody has any questions for the board members?
Before we go to the public portion, is there anyone on the board that has questions for the applicant or comments?
I have a question. Has this application gone in front of the HPC yet?
It has not yet. We intend to request that that be a condition of approval, that we would not seek a zoning permit until we have HPC approval as well.
Just a note, being the HPC liaison, normally we would require, a visual distinction between the original historic structure and, any renovations. So currently, the sidewalls are shown in line and the roof is shown in line. I don't believe that that would be approved.
But I'll try to give you some, and then you are Tim to address that. I believe, Tim, is there an actual board that runs, vertically from top to bottom at the seam between those two structures?
Yeah, there's a vertical board, which is where there's a corner board currently that separates the addition from the switch.
I see that the old, the existing roof line towards the rear of the property is all in line, but you're intending to bring that up higher. Just wanted to bring this to your attention now that it might be something in front of the HBC in the future to think about.
Right. We're pointing out that the historic shed line continues to cover the addition
Correct.
and raising the question that perhaps that should be distinguished.
Yeah, that.
Right. Thank you.
We're talking the roof line that's in the area of the setback?
We're talking about the shed roof line, which would cover the addition, which is within the area of the setback.
We generally don't let you change the plans once you get variance. We're proving the structure in the setback that you have put in the plans that were on notice to the public. So if that's gonna change, that's not okay.
Well, we're not requesting to change it.
If the HPC alters, this is why people go to the HPC first with consent approval, at least in my experience. So if they change the structure of the side yard, you gotta come back and make sure that that's okay with this board. So I want you to think about that now. If we're gonna do it now, then
Give me another minute, please.
yes.
Yeah, fine.
We'll do this.
So,
That's right. You don't want to get that much. Yeah, we can tell them that what's.
Siding has been, but we didn't. This is the. It's right here. That's his 27 really what I'm saying is it's an issue. It's new. And then.
All right, here you go. So here's the answer. So if you move it out the same height as what's there now, then it will be the same.
I'm just kidding, repeat that, please.
The roof lines of the old and the new do not match it.
That's correct.
When you cut this out, are you going to change the roof line, or are you going to keep the roof line of the new section for the new thing you're bumping out, and then it won't match the old section?
As it's proposed, because, I mean, there's the roof line over the setback part of the new, that's currently the new part, and then there's the roof line over this.
You should, no,
Okay.
yeah. Let us, no, look at it. I don't want you to have to come back and if the HBC changes things. This is like a $3,000 decision, so take a second and fix it.
This is really, I'm just saying things. The room. Use 5/4. Just different. So it's going to take. But that one doesn't need. That's fine. You can be just for ceiling. It looks like you see on the line. It's significant. It's Jimmy. Oh, the concept on the way here. The phone out. Stay goes up to the fight. Right. It's not. That comes because it's on out. Use it the same. In HBC with these gyms, and especially acquired in this, it should be just like. So. But I don't think you know what that is.
Well,
So we should, yes, what you're changing between the height and the pitch of the storage structure here.
so, all right, for the guys, talk loud in case someone hears what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
All right, can you summarize what was said so there's no mystery about it?
Yeah, thank you. I believe, what Mr. Barnes stated was that if we were going to slightly change the pitch of the new portion of the roof, that would create an visual distinction that wouldn't have AGPC review. And, Mr. Kerner, is it feasible to, slightly change the pitch of that roof?
Yes, it would be feasible.
And could we reflect that on the final plans that we would submit, to the zoning?
So the final plans that we would come back to the zoning board after the site review.
Could you update the plans, quickly with that change?
Yes, we could.
Thank you.
So, for the layperson's understanding, which I am on this particular issue, is that you need to be able to look at a building and tell what is the old part and the new part. And if you do this addition in a way that blends perfectly with the old part, then you can't do that anymore. And that's what you're proposing at the moment. And what we're saying is you need to make it look like more, the thing you're adding now has to match the new part, so to speak, so we can still tell it apart from the old part. So you're gonna change the plans in a way that might not look exactly what you submitted to us, but it's not gonna go any closer to the side yard. It's gonna have a pitch that's different than the old part so that we can tell the difference. Is that a summary?
Correct, and all the zoning issues would remain exactly the same. It's really just
Yeah.
basically where the top of the roof hits the filling. So
Yeah.
it's.
Okay. All right, fine. So on the record that you're gonna build something slightly different than what's in the plans before us, but not change the side yards.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's okay with me, I don't vote, but I'm just saying. It's okay now that if you build it different, you would have gotten stopped right tag.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
Do we have further questions from the board? I have a question. You spoke about old houses, historic homes having these gaps and doing infill, but from what I'm looking at, the infill is in the 2017 section, correct? It's not in the old house.
That is correct.
Okay. So that was a conscious decision in 2017 not to fill that section.
Correct.
If we have no further questions from the board, I'd like to ask the applicant to step back and ask anyone within 200 feet of this application to come forward if they'd like to speak. Okay, seeing none, anyone outside of 200 feet of this application that would like to come forward?
Sarah, for tell chief, something guy.
I do. I can't really, say much more than what our engineer says. I can't really approve any lead points unless they're by code. The schedule on the plan that allows the lead points, and you guys allow the lead points, then they can get the extra square footage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, I'd like to close the public portion and ask the applicant to come back forward. Have any?
Well, so again, I hesitate to say what I think the board should do, but maybe here's what I'd like to see is basically, it's a little weird, Rich and I had this conversation. Basically, we'd like the plans to be approved, subject to the lead points that we laid out today being retroactively granted as of the time as of the time the major renovation was completed. You've had testimony that all of the lead characteristics that we're claiming have been in place since the previous major renovation. The quirky reason that the previous developer probably did not claim those lead points was because there was a different interpretation of a different part of your zoning ordinance, which no longer applies today. And essentially, if the plans are approved subject to the lead points we've laid out, then all we're requesting is a C variance. If the board determines that it's not appropriate to give us the lead point bonus, then we would respectfully at that point like to request the D variance for the floor area ratio, which is basically according to your engineer 5 square feet and a 0.1% increase in floor area ratio.
Anthony, one thing I don't think I'm understanding is when the builder built in 2017, he took the porch credit, 200 feet. But the addition still put it over the allowable, the required gross floor area.
If you look at the plan, their calculations for gross floor area, including all on the porches, was 2,343 square feet right at the top,
Right, so it was already over.
minus the 200 would be well under 2,250. So that
So it's added back in.
they didn't include the porch at all on this one.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
For me, it's an easy, brutal, whichever way it's put in front of me, as a CURD. It's de minimis either way.
further exacerbates the non-conforming 2.6 feet from the property line on that side, 8 more feet. I mean, it's not, there is a cost.
It's still de minimis in my opinion.
Okay.
And certainly, whether we're voting on a D or a C, I don't see much difference.
Maybe we should move forward with functional certification applications, just because I tend to agree with Andy, it's not a major renovation. I don't feel that.
I don't know the answer to this. I mean, the way it's supposed to work is if they get the lead credits, we never see it. You know, lead credits are to avoid the virus in the first place. We don't decide lead credits. That gets done at the construction and zoning board, construction and zoning office, and they do the credits and they do the certification, and they make those decisions. But we're not authorized to make lead decisions. And so it's kind of silly to ask us to do it. Not their fault. I'm just saying it's not really what we do. And they didn't apply for lead credits because they weren't a substantial improvement, so there's no determination from the zoning officer or the construction officer in this particular instance for this permit to appeal. So it's like one of those things where I personally, their analysis makes sense to me, but structurally, it's not really something that we do. So the reason they don't want to do the D variance is it's really expensive. A D variance is about $2,500 or something. So they have to pay a fee if they apply for a D variance and they get it. And then they have to pay $2,500. They've already applied for it, so I'm not sure they're going to get it back, but that's kind of what they're doing, is they don't want to get it, they don't want to ask for it. But I personally, if I had to do a pure, like, technical legal analysis, to me, the fact that they meet the leads points is a reason to give them the variance, and it's the purpose of zoning, is that it's a structure that advances the leads thing, which is something that you guys are supposed to like. So it's one of the reasons to, a purpose of zoning is advance, and that they're further improving a leads compliant building.
It's there, so, the gross floor area ratio existing, if they were given the, 200 square foot credit, would be 2143. Right. So if we took that number, what are they then adding to be proposed? If we were taking 2143 plus, what is the additional square?
2143 minus 2255 be the difference.
Minus 20?
2250, the difference between the proposed and the existing feet. Guessing 2,143 square feet.
Yeah, so you would,
So they're adding 52 square feet.
so the rest 52, is that how many square feet you were adding?
That is the approximate site that we're adding, but I think, if I'm understanding your question correctly, it's about if we were getting the 200 square feet today. We have currently claimed 0 square feet by front.
I understand.
Yeah. So if we were getting 200 bonus square feet today, we would not need to request a P variance because I believe your board engineer calculated at 2,255. If we took 200 off of that, we'd be at 2,055, and we wouldn't need a variance at all. So unfortunately, it's an odd case where, without sounding too indignant, I believe my clients were slightly the victims to, not, I shouldn't even use that word, but the change in this, in the interpretation of the ordinance has left them in this awkward position where the previous owner did not apply for lead points that he could have because it didn't occur to him that he would need them because of the ordinance interpretation that existed at that time, which has since disappeared. And if we were still getting the credit for 200 square feet a day, which we're not asking for, which we understand now under the new interest was essentially erroneous. But if we still had the benefit of that 200 square foot bonus, we wouldn't need any D variance.
Okay, so I just want to, so one other thing, that the D variance analysis to me is not that super challenging. You still need C variances, and you are putting 8 feet in a side yard, really close to the side yard, and you are going over a lot coverage. So I do think that the board, I don't think that is the minimus thing. So the board does get to analyze that just as they would any other C variance, and weigh the benefits and the detriments and all of that stuff. The D variance thing, I'm not poo-pooing that, but I'm saying that I understand your argument. I know that I can say you don't need a D variance, but I think you have, pretty good D variance proofs, but in terms of the side yard and all that, whether you had benefits under the leads or not, leads doesn't let you build in the side yard. And it doesn't let you exceed lot coverage.
And I'm sorry, maybe I want to be really clear. We would still be asking for the C variances for side yard,
Yep.
total side yard, and lot coverage, regardless of the square footage of the lead. We would still need those 3 C variances this evening. So the issue is if we get the retroactive lead points, and we don't need a D variance at all, because we're now under a gross floor area and floor area.
With no doubt that they meet the lead point standard is the retroactive in grandfather and being renovation versus new construction. Going back to Alice's point, I think she's concerned that this is a unique case with the front porch, how it was all calculated. Say another applicant wants to build 150 square feet on the back of their house. They go, it's not new construction, they come to the zoning office with a bunch of lead points and say, hey, I meet the lead credit. Here's a plan for another bedroom on the back of the house, and we never see it. I think that's her concern.
Yeah, that's exactly it, especially, being so far in fact, people construct themselves or renovate themselves originally instead of renovating. Oh, I have a high efficiency washing machine. Well, most of us do at this point. Things have moved along so far that it's really not a much of a stretch to get these flipping points that we use.
Yeah, and that's perfectly valid, and that's why I'm not standing up saying we definitely don't need the D variance, because I don't. I agree with you, but if an expert came in and testified, one of the purposes of zoning advanced by this renovation, because we have leads, stuff going on, that is the purpose of zoning. considered in terms of benefits and detriments. We just don't want to tell people they can go and avoid D variances because they have high action stuff. I agree with that. I think your path is a little simpler if you just let us vote on the D variances.
Thank you. May I have a minute to confer my claim?
Absolutely.
You guys, or you guys can vote on whether they need a D variance or not.
All right, thank you. Mr. Milby has indicated that, he would like to just proceed with the original request for both the C variance as stated and the D variance for the floor area ratio, based on the testimony that we have presented.
So it's that resolution, we'll like that.
That resolution looks like the motion I recommend being made, well. Normally, when there's a D variance, I do a whole application at once and say that they need 5 out of 7 in order to pass. But in this instance, I would think we should vote separately, just in case they ultimately disagree that they needed a D variance or whatever, I want them to have that kind of voted on separately. So let's just do, the first motion will be a motion to grant the D variance, second motion will be a motion to grant the C variance. They need both to build their project, so if they lose either one, they really can't build it, but I want them to have the benefit of a vote on both, because the D variance only requires 5 out of 7 yeses, the C variance requires 4 out of 7 yeses. Okay? So the first motion will be for the D variance. And remember, the D variance you're applying, the site can accommodate the deviation from the floor area ratio. Okay? That's the standard you're applying. So the motion I recommend being made is a motion to grant the D variance for the application as amended by the applicant, given the slight change in the roof line. And that D variance is for variances ratio. And Anthony, did I hear someone express the opinion that the maximum gross floor area requires a D variance as well?
Yeah, maximum gross floor area, that's for 5 square feet over the allowed.
Okay.
The maximum floor area ratio, that's 1%.
All right, so this motion recommended being made is a motion to grant the D variance for numbers 4 and 5 on page 3. And the gross floor area and floor area ratio, subject to the conditions as outlined by the board engineer, including that relating to the historic manner of construction, and HPC approval generally. And the other conditions outlined by the engineer.
I'll make that one.
Well, hold on, shouldn't we hear from the public first? Any
I
public?
thought we opened and closed it.
But on this resolution, we did we?
We don't have to do it on the resolution.
No.
I thought we.
No, on
opened
the
and closed
on
it.
this
We did,
application.
we did open and close for this application,
Yeah.
and there was no one.
Oh, okay.
That's my recollection.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Norm came up. Norm came up.
Okay. So the motion I recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you, is a motion to grant variances 4 and 5 on page 3 for gross floor area ratio, which is a D variance that requires, a D variance that requires 5 out of 7. Then it can accommodate the site, subject to the conditions outlined by the board engineer, including the HPC approval and the alteration of the roof line to distinguish the old from the new.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second.
Barnes,
I'm on the fence, but since no neighbors have come up to speak out against this, I will vote yes.
Fusco,
Yes.
Morgan. Yes. Mulligan,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Richards,
I had some similar concerns to Jim, but again, since no one came up to offer testimony, challenging this or with concerns, I'm a yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Ray Flynn,
Yes, I have the same concern, but no one came up.
Kelly,
Yes, on the D variance.
How many people voted? 299.
9? Okay. 9
Sitting in zoning.
for a D, you said it was a plan. Once you pick
Everybody's here.
It doesn't matter.
What's that? What?
they said it, I thought once you kick them out, you the alternate. Correct?
I thought an all D variances, you vote 5 and 7.
It's a
We're needed for
moot point anyway
Yes.
on that D variant.
Yeah, but I wanna know the answer for the next.
The next one, you're gonna D variant.
The next one's a regular C.
Rich, if I may, I think you always have 7 votes on any zoning board issue, which is any variance, right? So, we're not here for planning board, it's not doing subdivision. Okay.
So
the two alternates didn't count.
Well, yeah. The reason you don't have more than 7 on a D variance is that you don't wanna put too great a burden on the applicant, because then you don't know how many yeses they need, so that's why it's 5 and 7. Where I'm just trying to think of that analysis applies for C variance. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say only 7 vote. I think you're either sitting as a zoning board or as a planning board, and once you sit, and you're sitting as a zoning board. If we had said they didn't need the D variance, then I think I'd let 9 vote, but, since you sat as a zoning board, we're gonna do 7, so I'm sorry for the alternates. I'll let you vote if anybody's curious, but I think, we're gonna do 7. So, that one we're gonna work down to 7-0.
It's 7-0.
Next. Chris, do you know who's voting?
Yep.
If you had to pick 7, all right, go ahead.
Do we need a motion?
And I recommend being made, but how you do it is up to you. That's okay. There's a motion to grant the C variances 1, 2, and 3 on page 3. And it's generally our policy to have you vote on existing non-conformities as well, 1 through 4. Subject to the conditions as I outlined previously for the last motion. This one requires 4 and 7 majority.
I'll make that.
So this is really, this is the setback, lot coverage, and, total setbacks, yes.
I'll make that vote.
Barnes,
Same answer as before. It's a little concerning, adding the side yard setback, but seeing as the neighbor to the right did not come and speak out against it, I would vote yes.
Buska,
Yes.
Morgan. Yes. Mulligan,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yeah.
Richards,
Yes.
Roselli,
I'm going to vote no, because of the increase in lot coverage, which already exceeds what is allowed. And, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we'd like to reopen the public portion and just ask you to keep your comments, brief if possible. So we get out of here before the storm. Or it's. Well. So, anyone from the public that would like to come forward, please step up, give your name, spelling, and your address.
Ellie McDevitt, 219 Third Avenue, McDevitt, McDevitt.
Your address one more time?
219 Third. I have a question. I don't know if this is within your purview or not. If it isn't, I hope it'll put me in the right direction. So I haven't been to very many discussions about the master plan, but I have read the previous one. And it is replete with references to the country-like atmosphere of West Cape, Maine that needs to be preserved. Excuse me. With that in mind, how is it possible that the structure that replaced Ducky's restaurant is allowed to exist? It looks like something from a Soviet gulag that political prisoners enter and never come back out. It doesn't reflect the nature of a country-like atmosphere. It doesn't fit in with anything else in the Berkeley. It ignores any architectural or historical nuances about the architecture here. So my question is, how did it happen? Is that something from this board or is it from someplace else?
I can help answer that.
Thank you.
So the project is not complete yet. So obviously during the process, it looks a certain way. They were required to come in front of the Historic Preservation Committee because the structure, although renovated many times over, is a historic property. So we provided them some detail with which to finish the project with. So there are going to be some architectural components of it in the end. It might be lacking them currently, but the final design does have historical accuracies.
Okay, so that it is this board that,
This was the historic.
HPC.
Yeah, this was HPC. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to come forward?
Hamilton Wild, 168 Stevens Street. That's WILD. This is just a quick question and should be pretty easy. I don't even think the best way to phrase it. When you put the draft of the master plan reexamination online, how long does it stay on the website? Just because I generally don't print things, so I had it pulled up from the website at the last meeting and now it's not there. I just wanted to know for future reference.
It should be there.
Did it move? Because there's no longer the link at the top. So the last time I looked.
So it might not be at the top simply because that is a rotating.
I did do a search function on the entire website. I searched for draft documents. I searched in documents, so I'm not sure, there might be a web issue to look into.
Sure, so we'll take a look.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to close the public portion and ask the board if anyone has anything they can bring for our attention before we adjourn.
Are we meeting for a work session?
Yes. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Second, thank you.
Third.
Sorry, it's on the website.